Hello, I'm Linda. I'll tell you about my 90/10 MedBed experience. I did the 8-hour trial several weeks ago, and at the time I decided to ask for some attention to a new onset issue that I had, which was simply a common cold that I had come down with a day or two before, and a few longer term issues. They were that I have compromised circulation to my lower extremities, and I had developed some severe blood clots post-operatively for a shoulder surgery a couple years ago. And so the circulation in my legs are definitely not normal. So I asked for some attention to that, and some arthritis in my feet and hands. I have had some quite serious hip pain for a few years, and it bothers me some during the day, but very bad at night. It's extremely difficult to find a position of comfort for very long, and I can never sleep on my right side because the pain is immediate in that when I turn on that side. Other than that, I asked about some the fragility of the skin of my forearms. I've the last couple years I've had rather serious bruising and skin tears that would just happen at the slightest little bump or scratch. So my arms almost always have some kind of bruising present. At the time that I went into the med bed, I didn't have any active tears. Had some kind of residual bruising, but nothing major at that time. So I turned the bed on and asked for some attention to these areas. And the first thing I felt was some tightness in my left chest from my waist to my shoulder and from midline over. And it made me wonder whether I might have some heart issue that I didn't know about. That lasted a while, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes. The sensations that were most prominent were tingling over my feet and lower legs, and on my hands and arms from the tip of my fingers to my elbows on both arms. And that lasted as long as I was awake. And it wasn't unpleasant, it was just a sensation that was not normal. And so about halfway through, I decided I would just go to sleep and let the bed do what it would. And so I turned onto my right side, which I would not normally do because of the pain. So, but I was fine. The pain just simply wasn't there. And as far as I know, I slept on that side until I woke up several hours later, which would have coincided with the termination of the 8-hour trial. And I just woke up and I realized that the treatment was over, and I went right back to sleep. Now, going right back to sleep in itself was remarkable because I don't normally do that, but then in the absence of pain, I guess that would account for that, and I was seemed to be quite just relaxed, and so I just turned over and went on back to sleep. So the next morning, when I woke up, the first thing I was aware of is that I had a rather sharp headache just between my eyes, and that reminded me that I had also asked the bed to address my pineal gland, which is something that we've been hearing a lot about, and it didn't last very long, 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so. It was quite obvious that I didn't have any hip pain, and as the day went on, the pain just simply was not there. My cold was still there, however, so MedBed did nothing to short-circuit my cold, and I had to endure the usual 7 to 10 days of the common cold. So that night, the next night, I went to sleep, and my hip pain didn't wake me up. I slept well, and and that just seemed, I was estimating that the pain was 90% gone. There was just a little twinges, or a little discomfort, but really quite healed, shall we say. I also, during maybe that first day, I kind of did a double take on my arms. My arms looked good. The skin appeared more hydrated. I just was sort of shocked. I did a double take and looked back and I thought, wow, it doesn't even look like my arms. As I said, I didn't have any active tears at the time, but they were just clear. And so I really gave credit to the MedBed for that, and that kind of, as I mentioned before, I had that tingling that was for my waking hours, which might have been 3.5 or 4 hours. I could feel the tingling from my fingertips to my elbows, both arms, and obviously that was doing something in the healing category on that. So I would say my cold, by the way, I mentioned did not alter. Another thing that I became aware of within the first day or two after the trial was that I had better range of motion in my right arm. I'd had shoulder surgery a few years earlier, reconstruction, and I did not expect to have full range of motion, and I still do not. But I was very aware that suddenly I was able to reach higher shelves, and I felt that I had picked up about 10 to 15 degrees of range of motion in that arm just from the one session with the MedBed. Going forward, I was so pleased with my response that within a week or so I had purchased the bed and had installed in my home in 3 beds. So I've had the use of it since then, and I've focused pretty much on the same issues that I had addressed with the trial. And within another session or two, the residual hip pain was completely gone. I now have absolutely no hip pain at all. I will tell you a little bit more about the hip. It had been x-rayed and there was no arthritis, so I'm sure it was all soft tissue, muscle, tendons, ligaments, whatever, tightness, and so maybe that accounts for the more prompt response, because I'm sure that if it was advanced arthritis or something, my results could have been very much different. So I use the bed every day, every night. One other person in my home also uses it and is having some good responses as well. I'm sure there were a couple other things I wanted to mention, but overall I'm sleeping extremely well because I don't wake up with the pain anymore in my hip, so I'm far more rested, and I just have really enjoyed having the MedBed here in my home, and I feel very fortunate to have even found this as a possibility, and I encourage anyone who's giving any thought at all to energy healing, frequency healing, to give the 9010 MedBed a trial. It's pretty wonderful. I call it my new best friend. Thank you for listening.